Speak for half an hour each on the cooperating and partnering among sending agencies and churches. And first plenary speaker will be Greg Paek, Dr. Greg Paek. He's the International Director of the Global Partners, currently based in Malaysia. And then to follow will be Dr. Bruce Johnson, President of SIM USA here. So please come forward. Let's give a big hand to Dr. Greg Paek.
Great privilege to be able to come and seeing a wonderful man of God and woman, of course, genderless, inclusive. For every mission, gatherings, or conferences, I believe these days you have to have partnership in there. If not, then it's not a complete mission conference. Cooperation and partnership become a very special menu for every mission conferences. So here I am, I have to tackle on one of the hardest issues, because cooperation and partnership between the sending agency and churches. But I spent past 25 years in the mission field. And I have some of the things that I might be able to share from my viewpoint on what God is doing, and then what God is also trying to mend and then bring in amongst the partnership and cooperation, especially the churches and missionary agencies, and what God is raising up in the other parts of the world. You know, I just want to point out by giving you some pictures of Malaysia, Indonesia, and I used to serve in the Philippines and Indonesia, Malaysia. So that is really the place where God has given me the network and connections and just a lively way of doing God's ministry with the people in the parts of the world. And this is a church was called DUMC, Damansara Uttara Methodist Church. Even though I'm a Presbyterian, the one who graduated from Westminster Theological Seminary, but I attend this church. Why? Because this church has a great mission heart, and of course, you know, I don't go there every Sunday, but from time to time, I go there to learn their spirit, and then especially a focus of missional ministry that they are carrying on. This church has about 3,000 members. But their annual mission budget is about $1.5 million, and it is growing almost every year. And they spend every single cent on whether domestic or foreign missions. Dr. Daniel Ho, a Chinese Malaysian, but he is implying so many things, especially with prayer. And this is 2 weeks of fast and early prayer meeting on every first 2 weeks of the beginning of the year. They go through 2 weeks of fasting and prayer. You think the Korean churches are praying hard? I'm seeing that Malaysian churches and Indonesian churches and even some of the other churches in Asia are praying fervently hard for the work of God's kingdom. This is a church called Mawar Sharon. One in Jakarta has about over 10,000 membership. Well, number of membership really doesn't make any difference. But what it tells, and especially with the kind of ministry that they are carrying on, they are trying to send out missionaries, and they are also trying to get involved with the work of God's kingdom and its expansion. Well, this is a harvest retreat that I once spoke in Malaysia. Hope Church has other branches all over Asia, and this one happened to be the one in Kuala Lumpur. And when I was speaking, there were over 10,000 young people in their 20s, all the university students. And then the last day, I gave a challenge to those people who were willing to serve the Lord full time, either as missionaries or, the missionary terminology doesn't really make any difference these days, because that is an old term. And we don't have to use that term of setting apart of Christians who are mission-minded with a missionary who is serving full-time. So the challenge was given, and about 300 people out of 1,000 all came out, raised their hand, crying, said, "We like to serve the Lord in my lifetime." That is exactly what's going on in the other parts of the world. God is raising up, and I believe, every time I come back to the States, it's been 25, 26 years since I left the States and then serving over the other parts of the world. And then every time I come back to the States, I feel like God is moving 2-3 times faster in our world than here in America. What used to be happening here 20, 30 years ago, now is happening over there. So, of course, I need to go into a cooperation between the churches and mission agencies. But let me just show you a few other things. The local churches raising up workers, sending out just outside of the churches as well as overseas. God is giving them creative minds, and their creative mind brings out even greater things that God is able to do with so many different things. Let me just go a little quickly. This is a school in Bandung. It says Institute Technology Harapan Bangsa. All Nations Institute Technology. And the graduates from this school are spreading out all over Asia. They are the graduates of just a technical university. But you know what? They are the missionaries. They're the one who has a mission mind and go and then take job with Accenture. They are taking job with some of the international corporation. But they have a mission heart. And then they would like to go out and then change the world and expand the kingdom of God. And that's exactly what's happening these days. Mission prayer movement. Dr. Lee talked about a prayer and mission. Mission prayer movement, this is a prayer movement. It's called Sumo Wrestling Prayer Movement. Do you know what Sumo Wrestling is? It's not sumo wrestling, what the wrestling was happening in Japan. It's Sumo Wrestling, prayer for Sumatra, Indonesia. And they are praying like wrestling with God. So it's like, Jacob was wrestling with God. And they would like to pray for the unreached people groups of Sumatra, beginning with the Aceh, and then there's a Minang people, Kabah people, and with the Riau people, and Lampung people, and Ogan people, all these different people groups. They're raising up the prayer for God in order to send workers. They would like to see that worship will be gathered and then prayed up in their own language. That's what's happening. God is moving really fast. Some of the mission movement that I got involved with in Indonesia, And most of these people that, I left Indonesia and then about 10 years ago, and now I'm in Malaysia. But some of the workers that I raised up, the Lord has raised up through our commitment and then the partnership. They are now all over Asia serving the Lord. You think the Koreans are sending out missionaries? These days, I feel like I want to be Indonesian or Malaysian because the mission movement in that region is even greater than what has happened in Korea 10 years ago. We need to be humbled. What God is doing, God can take over. This is some of the cooperation between the ministry, what used to be the radio ministry, radius, shortwave ministry, radius about 30 kilometers. But with the churches and mission organizations cooperated and start to see the need. And then they are giving a greater support to advance the equipment. And this is what happened afterward. With a shortwave and medium wave, over 300 kilometers. And they are reaching out 100 times more people than what used to be. So the cooperation and partnership has become one of the greatest way of carrying on and advancing the work of God's kingdom. Okay, there you are. Partnership. It's usually, we think that the top leaders are the ones who sit on the table and start to work on partnership and then start to make MOU and then say, okay, let's carry the partnership. But you know what? The real partnership happened and initiated from the field, not from the top leadership. I served 25 years and then I've seen so many workers all over Asia that the resources they have, there's tremendous and enormous resources all over the world. The thing is, only the limited part of the resources were given to individuals or organizations. So resources are plentiful, but only few people have different resources. So partnership is a must in order to gather it together and make a synergy out from every type of resource we have, whether it's a human resource or whether it's a technological resource, a strategical resource or whatever, or even financial resource. So all these resources, but it happened in the field, which means that the partnership that arises from the field has become a concrete partnership and cooperation is non-conventional mission structures. We heard about business as mission. Well, there's a community development type of ministry. We even have student missionaries going into campuses, studying as students, but acting as a kingdom workers in a very effective way. And all this different new paradigm of mission, non-conventional mission type. What we have learned, the paradigm of mission that we have learned, and especially the Korean church have learned from the Western mission organization. But once the Korean mission is trying to apply that particular mission paradigm on the field, we are seeing that time is moving on very fast. Changes are taking place so fast. And all the changes that God has brought upon, and then His sovereign way of bringing about the changes, it is applying in the field in a very, very different ways. We need to learn how God is raising up new type of missionaries. No longer a conventional type of missionary who have gone through a seminarian or studies. Not to downplay Gordon Conwell here, but the people, younger generation, especially in Asia, they don't want to go to seminary. They don't want to just carry on the church planting ministry. They want to be more effective, and especially in terms of reaching out to the media, where they are able to have greater efficiency and greater effectiveness to the world that are out there. Some of the people that they don't see, yet still be able to reach out with a very powerful Word of God. And we also have unlimited human resources. China, India, Indonesia, to calculate the younger generation that are rising up and just want to serve the Lord in various different ways with their own gifts. Their resources are unlimited. It is, we need to step in and then give them a direction how they are able to match that resource and then try to bring them out for the work of God's kingdom. And that's where the mission agencies and churches are able to work together to sort out what can be done. The change that will take place in 5 years, in 10 years. And how we are able to bring that in and then make them a greater workers for God's kingdom. We also see there's a mission mobilization and training, especially training. Mission training. I know we have so much to learn from our Western brothers who has gone through this for a long time. But these days, that Korean mission training is also becoming very needed by the Western mission organization as well. CRC, for instance, from Grand Rapids, they have contacted us. We have our mission training center in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and they say, we need a spiritual and prayer life training. Can you accommodate us? We like to send our mission trainees, missionary candidates for about 2 weeks. Can you train us? And then we say, 2 weeks is not enough. You need to send at least 2 months in order for them to have a proper way of praying and then put that into their lifestyle. And it didn't work out because they thought that 2 months of training in Malaysia was way too long than their calculated time. But anyway, we see that there's a need that a Western counterpart is asking the Asians and the two-third world to train us. Of course, we also need to get the training, theological trainings and historical and biblical and strategical training need to be done. And then the Western mission has a greater efficiency in this part. But then, prayer life, communal life, and then all these other trainings that what we can offer, and then that's where the partnership needs to be stepped in. And then sharing mothers. I can go on for this wonderful mothers, but let me just share one thing. Transworld Radio. They are sending out the radio ministry, and there are great respondents from all over the field. The only thing is they have no way of following up the positive responders and then carry on the Bible study among them. And who can do this? The local students, theological students, local people who's already there and who can carry on. You don't need to send out missionaries for this. They're already there, and then if we are able to utilize them in a proper manner, then we can have churches here, Bible study there, fellowship there, and all this different way of building up the kingdom work can be done. Just as a conclusion, God has commanded us to partner with one another. There is not one single person or one single organization or one single church that can finish this enormous task of world evangelization. Only partnership is able to bring this task unto God's glory. And amongst all those organizations, I believe churches and mission agencies are the one forefront of this missional work. And what can be better done when we hold our hands together and sort out what would be the best way of doing this work? Of course, with all what previous speakers have talked about, prayers, and our humble heart, all incalculated. A partnership is a must when we have proper partnership, certainly we are able to bring in the greater advancement, the expansion of God's kingdom. Thank you very much.
주 예수보다 더 귀한 것은 없네. 이 세상 보기와 바꿀 수 없네. 영주